If you'd like to learn more about poetry, you can reach us at... Psych, we just kidding. Good night, y'all.
Well, all of us aren't. And welcome to Hi everyone, welcome back to Hearts and Minds official YouTube channel. For those of you who are new here, my name is Adarsh Pillai. I am a published poet and a freelance writer. Please make sure to leave a comment down below after you're done watching the video. Share it with your friends, don't forget to like. For more information on this or any other episode, go to my website heartsandmind1.wordpress.com. There are additional resources, more reading material, episode-related content, and link to my book if you're interested. On today's episode, we are going to talk about Edgar Allan Poe. Edgar Allan Poe's stature as a major figure in world literature is primarily based on his ingenious and profound short stories, poems, and critical theories, which established a highly influential rationale for the short form in both poetry and fiction. Regarded in literary histories and handbooks as the architect of the modern short story, Poe was also the principal forerunner of the art for art's sake movement in 19th century European literature. Whereas earlier critiques predominantly concerned themselves with moral or ideological generalities, Poe focused his criticisms on the specifics of style and construction that contributed to a work's effectiveness or failure. In his own work, he demonstrated a brilliant command of language and technique, as well as an inspired original imagination. Poe's poetry and short stories greatly influenced the French symbolists of the late 19th century, who in turn altered the direction of modern literature. Poe's most conspicuous contribution to world literature derives from the analytical method he practiced both as a creative author and as a critique of the works of his contemporaries. His self-declared intention was to formulate strictly artistic ideals in a milieu that he thought overly concerned with the utilitarian value of literature, a tendency he termed the hearsay of didactic. While Poe's position includes the chief requisites of pure aestheticism, his emphasis on literary formalism was directly linked to his philosophical ideals. Through the calculated use of language, one may express, though always imperfectly, a vision of truth and the essential condition of human existence. Poe's theory of literary creation is noted for two central points. First, a work must create a unity of effect on the reader to be considered successful. Second, the production of this single effect should not be left to the hazards of accident or inspiration, but should, to the minutest details of style and subject, be the result of rational deliberation on the part of the author. In poetry, this single effect must arouse the reader's sense of beauty, an ideal that Poe closely associated with sadness, strangeness, and loss. In prose, the effect should be one revelatory of some truth, as in tales of ratiocination or works evoking terror or passion or horror. Aside from a common theoretical basis, there is a psychological intensity that is characterized of Poe's writing, especially the tales of horror that comprise his best known works. These stories, which include The Black Cat, The Cask of Amontillado, and The Telltale Heart, are often told by a first-person narrator, and through his voice, Poe probes the workings of a character's psyche. This technique foreshadowed the psychological explanation of Fyodor Dostoevsky and the school of psychological realism. In his Gothic tales, Poe also employed an essential symbolic, most allegoric method which gives such works as The Fall of the House of Usher, The Mask of the Red Death, and Ligeia an enigmatic quality that accounts for his enduring interests and links them with the symbolic work of Nathaniel Hawthorne and Herman Melville. The influence of Poe's tales may be seen in the works of late writers, including Ambrose Bierce and H.P. Lovecraft, who belong to a distant tradition of horror literature initiated by Poe. In addition to his achievement as a creator of the modern horror tale, Poe is also credited with parenting two other popular genres, science fiction and the detective story. In such works as The Unparalleled Adventures of Hans Pfaall and Von Kempelen and His Discovery, Poe took advantage of the fascination for science and technology that emerged in the early 19th century to produce speculative and fantastic narratives which anticipated a type of literature that did not become widely practiced until the 20th century. Similarly, Poe's three tales of ratiocination, The Murder in the Rue Morgue, The Purloined Letter, and The Mystery of Margie Rogers, are recognized as the models which establish the major characters and literary conventions of detective fiction, specifically the amateur sleuth who solves a crime that has confounded the authorities and whose feats are deductive reasoning are documented by an admiring associate. Just as Poe influenced many succeeding authors and is regarded as an ancestor of such major literary movements as symbolism and surrealism, he was also influenced by earlier literary figures and movements. In his use of the demonic and the grotesque, Poe evidenced the impact of the stories of E.T.A. Hoffman and the Gothic novels of Anne Radcliffe, while the despair and melancholy in much of his writings reflect an affinity with the Romantic movement of the early 19th century. It was Poe's particular genius that in his works he gave consummate artistic form both to his personal obsessions and those of previous literary generations, at the same time creating a new form which provided a means of expression for future artists. Poe's genre. He brought a style of Gothic writing in order to make statements and use the concept of terror, mystery, and the supernatural to bring fear and terror to society. Here are 5 poems by Mr. Poe that I'll be reading for you. Alone. From childhood's hour I have not been as others were, I have not seen as others saw, I could not bring my passions from a common spring. From the same source I have not taken, my sorrow I could not awaken, my heart to joy at the same tone, and all I ever loved I loved alone. Then in my childhood, in the dawn of a most stormy life, was drawn from every depth of good and ill the mystery which binds me still, from the torrent or the forest or the red cliff of the mountain, from the sun that round me rolled in the autumn tint of gold, from the lightning in the sky as it passed me flying by, from the thunder in the storm and the cloud that took the form when the rest of heaven was blue, of a demon in my view. Annabel Lee. It was many and many a year ago in a kingdom by the sea that a maiden there lived whom you may know by the name of Annabel Lee. And this maiden she lived with no other thought than to love and be loved by me. I was a child and she was a child in this kingdom by the sea, but we loved with a love that was more than love, I and my Annabel Lee, with a love that the winged seraphs of heaven coveted her and me. And this was the reason that long ago in this kingdom by the sea, a wind blew out of the cloud, chilling my beautiful Annabel Lee, so that her high-born kinsman came and bore her away from me to shut her up in a sepulchre. In this kingdom by the sea, the angels, not half so happy in heaven, went envying her and me. Yes, that was the reason, as all men know in this kingdom by the sea, that the wind came out of the cloud by night, chilling and killing my Annabel Lee. But our love, it was stronger by far than love of those who were older than me, of many far wiser than me, and neither the angels in heaven above nor the demons down under the sea can ever dissever my soul from the soul of the beautiful Annabel Lee. From the moon never beams without bringing me dreams of the beautiful Annabel Lee, and the stars never rise but I feel the bright eyes of the beautiful Annabel Lee. And so all the night tide I lie down by my side of my darling, my life and my bride, in her sepulchre there by the sea, in her tomb by the sounding sea. The Raven. Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered weak and weary over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore, while I nodded nearly napping, suddenly there came a tapping, as of someone gently rapping at my chamber door. "'Tis some visitor," I muttered, tapping at my chamber door. "Only this and nothing more." Distinctly I remember it was in the bleak December, and each separate dying ember wrought its ghost upon the floor. Eagerly I wished the morrow, vainly I had sought to borrow from my books surcease of sorrow, sorrow for the lost Lenore, for the rare and radiant maiden whom the angels named Lenore, nameless here forevermore. And the silken, sad, uncertain rustling of each purple curtain thrilled me, filled me with fantastic terrors never felt before, so that now, to still the beating of my heart, I stood repeating, "'Tis some visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door, some late visitor entreating entrance at my chamber door. This it is and nothing more." Presently my soul grew stronger, hesitating then no longer. "Sir," said I, "or madam, truly your forgiveness I implore, but the fact is I was napping, and so gently you came rapping, and so faintly you came tapping at my chamber door, that I scarce was sure I heard you. Here I opened wide the door, darkness there, and nothing more. Deep into the darkness peering, long I stood there wondering and fearing, doubting, dreaming dreams no mortal ever dared to dream before, but the silence was unbroken and the stillness gave no token. And the only word there spoken was the whispered word Lenore. This I whispered, and an echo murmured back the word Lenore. Merely this and nothing more. Back into the chamber, turning all my soul with my burning, soon again I heard a tapping somewhere louder than before. Surely, said I, surely there is something at my window lattice. Let me see then what threat is and this mystery explore. Let my heart be still a moment and this mystery explore. 'Tis the wind and nothing more. Open here I flung the shutter when with many a flirt and flutter in there stepped a stately raven of the saintly days of yore. Not the least obeisance made he, not a minute stopped or stayed he, but with mien of lord or lady, perched above my chamber door, perched upon a bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, perched and sat and nothing more. Then this ebony bird beguiled my sad fancy into smiling by the grave and stern decorum of the countenance it wore. Though thy crest be shorn and shaven, thou, I said, art sure no craven, ghastly grim and ancient raven, wandering from the night shore. Tell me what thy lord name is on the night's plutonium shore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Much I marvelled this ungainly fowl to hear discourse so plainly, though its answer little meaning, little relevance bore. For we cannot help agreeing that no living human being ever yet was blessed with seeing bird above his chamber door, bird or beast upon the sculptured bust above his chamber door, with such a name as nevermore. But the raven sitting lonely on the placid bust spoke only that one word, as if his soul in that one word he did outpour. Nothing farther than he uttered, not a feather than he fluttered, till I scarcely more than muttered, other friends have flown before, on the morrow he will leave me, as my hopes have flown before. And the bird said, nevermore. Startled at the stillness broken by replying so aptly spoken, doubtless, said I. What it utters is its only stock and store, caught from some unhappy master, whom unmerciful disaster followed fast and followed faster, till his songs one burden bore, till the dirges and his hope that melancholy burden bore, of never, nevermore. But the raven still beguiled on my fancy into smiling. Straight I wheeled a cushioned seat in front of a bird, and bust and door. Then upon the velvet sinking, I betook myself to linking fancy unto fancy, thinking what this ominous bird of yore, what this grim, ungainly, ghastly, gaunt, and ominous bird of yore meant in croaking, nevermore. This I sat engaged in guessing, but no syllable expressing to the fowl whose fiery eyes now burnt into my bosom's core. This and more I sat divining, with my head at ease reclining on the cushion's velvet lining, that the lamp's light gloated o'er, but whose velvet violet lining with the lamp light gloating o'er, she shall press, nevermore. Then methought the air grew denser, perfumed from an unseen censer, swung by seraphim, whose footfalls tinkled on the tufted floor. Wretch, I cried, thy God hath lent thee, by these angels he hath sent thee, respite, and nepenthe from thy memories of Lenore. Quaff, oh quaff these nepenthe, and forget this lost Lenore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Prophet, said I, think of evil, prophet still, if bird or devil, whether tempered sent or whether tempest tossed thee here ashore, desolate yet all undaunted, on this desert land enchanted, on this home of horror haunted, tell me, truly, I implore, is there balm Gilead? Tell me, I implore. Quoth the raven, nevermore. Be that word or sign of parting, bird or fiend, I shrieked, upstarting. Get thee back into the tempest of the night's Plutonian shore. Leave no black plum as a token of that lie thy soul hath spoken. Leave my loneliness unbroken. Quit the bust above my door. Take thy beak from out my heart, and take thy form from off my door. Quoth the raven, nevermore. And the raven, never flitting, still is sitting on the pallid bust of Pallas just above my chamber door, and his eyes have all the seeming of a demon's that is dreaming, and the lamp light o'er him streaming throws his shadow on the floor. and my soul from out that shadow that lies floating on the floor shall be lifted nevermore. A dream within a dream. Take this kiss upon the brow, and in parting from you now, thus much let me avow, you are not wrong who deem that my days have been a dream. Yet if hope has flown away in a night or in a day, in a vision or in none, is it therefore the less gone? All that we see or seem is but a dream within a dream. I stand amid the roar of a surf-tormented shore, and I hold within my hand grains of golden sand. How few, yet how they creep through my fingers to the deep while I weep. O God, can I not grasp them within a tighter clasp? O God, can I not save one from the pitiless wave? Is all that we see or seem but a dream within a dream? The haunted palace. In the greenest of our valleys, by good angels tenanted, once a fair and stately palace, radiant palace, reared its head in the monarch Thorn's dominion. It stood there, never seraph spread a pinion o'er fabric half so fair. Yellow banners, glorious golden on its roof, did float and flow. All this was in the olden time long ago, and every gentle air that dallied in that sweet day along the ramparts, plumbed and pallid, a winged odor went away. Wanderers in that happy valley through two luminous windows saw spirits moving musically to a lute's well-tuned law. Round about a throne were sitting Porphyrogene. In state his glory well befitting the ruler of the realm was seen. And all this with pearl and ruby glowing was the fair palace door, through which came flowing and sparkling evermore a troop of echoes whose sweet duty was but to sing in voices of surpassing beauty the wit and wisdom of their king. But evil things in robes of sorrow assailed the monarch's high estate. Ah, let us mourn, for never morrow shall dawn upon him desolate. And round about his home and glory that blushed and bloomed is but a dim remembered story of the old time entombed. And travellers now within the valley through the red-lit windows see vast forms that move fantastically to a discordant melancholy, whilst a ghastly rapid river through the pale door a hideous throng rush out forever and laugh but smile no more. And with that, we come to the end of the episode. I hope you enjoyed what we took today. Full biography of Mr. Poe, additional 25 poems, created by myself, written by Mr. Poe. Head over to heartsandwine1.wordpress.com. Include the description, all free of cost, of course. With each coming day, I hope you bring out a new change in your life, where the only thing consistent is inconsistency in the course of life. I wish you all the best. Remember tonight, signing off, Adarsh.